has brought that Medicham, its dynamic punch. You're going to be able to do super effective damage before even the Zap Cannon, and it's a no Protect Shield. XJerald has to know this is going to be dynamic punch, and it doesn't quite knock out, but it does a lot.
And what a brutal snare there.
Hey everyone, today we are going to do a deep dive into my battles and commentate on why I did what I did or the movesets I chose, etc. The main thing to take away from this is that Dynamic Punch Medicham, in my opinion, is the best moveset in the current meta. Registeel usage has skyrocketed, mainly because I had a much worse matchup versus Trevenant, but Trevenant is nowhere to be seen in this meta, so Glaring Stunfisk does not have nearly as much play. And on top of that, you have much better matchups against things like Venusaur and Medicham. And Medicham usage is through the roof, higher than it's ever been. Registeel actually has a lot of play into Medicham because you're able to win the zero shield scenario against anything but Dynamic Punch Medicham. You could lose potentially to a Power Punch Medicham if you don't debuff them with a Zap Cannon and you just have a bad IV Registeel. But even if you have a good IV Registeel, you can still win the zero shield scenario against a Power Punch Medicham, even without debuffs. I personally like to run Dynamic Punch. I know it's not nearly as popular as Power Punch if you are running a fighting moveset, but Dynamic Punch just helps you close out so many matchups. It has a much better play into Sableye as well, but especially shields down against things like Glaring Stunfisk and Registeel, you just do much better. Lickitung, Umbreon as well. Biggest drawbacks of having Dynamic Punch over Psychic is that you're going to lose the mirror matchup against Psychic Medichams pretty hard, and you're also going to be completely walled off from Azumarill. Azumarill, though, is much harder to bring these days. Dynamic Punch is also a little less energy than Psychic, so getting to that second Dynamic Punch is actually faster than getting to that second Psychic. You're probably thinking, well, bring a Medicham moveset that's worse in the mirror matchup sounds like a really bad idea, especially if Medicham usage is at an all-time high. But if you construct your team well, you can still have a lot of play. I had Sableye, Noctowl, and Registeel, 3 solid counters slash checks to opposing Medicham, as well as Venusaur with shields up. Registeel's much better shields down, Venusaur is much better shields up, Sableye is good all around, and Noctowl for the most part is good into Medicham outside of the zero shield scenario. So that was my thought process, and we're going to take a look into the battles to see how I maneuvered around my Medicham as well as the rest of my Pokemon. Before we get into the battles, a big shout out and thank you to all my patrons who've been supporting my content creation. If you would also like to have early access to my strategies and lineups, or see behind the scenes footage of my battles, feel free to sign up in the Patreon link down below. Getting into our first stream match, so all of my battles were streamed outside my round 1 matchups. So we had to bye the first round, and so we are in the winners semifinals after defeating my second round opponent essentially. And so this is essentially the third round. We're going against DoctorRoastBeef, who is running a very interesting team. There is no steel type. There's no steel type. So Noctowl actually looks very strong. I assume I'll probably bring Noctowl into every matchup here. And we go into the first one. Glaring Weezing is going to be a problem for my team because my team is, my Medicham is not even running Psychic. So that's not going to be a great time. That being said, as I predicted, my Noctowl is going to be pretty good at safe swap. It's really the low Ninetales I'd want to watch out for. I didn't know the moveset of the low Ninetales, but based on the team composition, Powder Snow seemed like a more likely scenario. Otherwise, that Noctowl is even stronger. But DoctorRoastBeef did not bring the low Ninetales in the first match, so that's not too bad. My Noctowl is okay into Umbreon. I can't really easily flip this matchup, but you know, if there's no lone Ninetales here, there's probably maybe no Altaria, which makes my Venusaur pretty safe. And then I'm going to catch the energy here. My Medicham, unfortunately, I can't really win switch very easily. And the problem is this Glaring Weezing, even with Brutal Swing would be annoying for my Venusaur, but it does have Overheat and had to account for that. So I didn't really want to go down shields because then my Venusaur is going to be in a really tough spot. Also resisting all those grass moves is not great. So I am just, you know, I figured it was probably going to be a play rough, if not even better, but I wasn't really fazed by the play rough. I just needed this Glaring Weezing to expend its energy. Not having any steel types, not having any ground types in my team in general does make this matchup kind of annoying. But we are going to just let that go and try to Vine Whip down. We have a shield advantage. And again, I mean, if it's Altar in the back, I'm in trouble. But anything else, I'm usually in a pretty decent spot. And here comes the Umbreon. I wasn't completely sure what the energy was at. Obviously, I know I could tank 1. I just wasn't sure how if I could farm this down or not. I probably, looking back on it, could have. But I decided to just play a little safe here, too. I'm thinking, all right, Medicham, not ideal, but could be okay. However, it probably is Medicham or Swampert, looking at the team composition. Otherwise, he'd be just way too weak to Bastiodon leads. And it's going to be a Swampert, so that's going to be pretty nice. I try to pause here before I throw my next one. Obviously, I have to shield the Hydro Cannon. And I think DoctorRoastBeef paused as well. I think he mentioned it too. So I wait for the mud shot to kind of come through before throwing. I'm not sure if the pause I fully executed or not, but he was not able to catch it. And even if he did catch a move there, I think the Vine would just take him out anyway before anything happens. So able to secure that first round victory there. But Glaring Weezing does look very, very strong and safe into my team in general. Its really worst matchup is really just that Bastiodon. But even then, it can still at least hit for neutral, right? It's not like a lone Powder Snow, lone Ninetales by any means. If you don't know, also, DoctorRoastBeef, name does not look familiar. He actually goes by Poop Soup. So, been in the community for a while, especially in Grassroots and Sylph stuff. But he unfortunately had to change his name. So, he changed to DoctorRoastBeef. But so I battled him before in Sylph factions, and I was very well aware of that he was going to be a tough opponent by all means. But yeah, a very interesting team here. Looking at this specific matchup, this is probably one of the few times where the Dynamic Punch, Ice Punch Medicham was not super helpful, I guess. I mean, it's okay. It would have been really good into the Umbreon if I got into that, but otherwise not any real big significant factor there. And Stay Swap the Noctowl, and as expected, there's a lone Ninetales this time around, so not the best matchup for me. I can't really flip this. It's not even the Shadow variant, so like the wing, I can't even double shield and wing attack down, right? Like that's not going to be a great time. Otherwise, it would have been fine. I've been very happy to try to do that, especially because I have a Bastion for the Glaring Weezing. I don't really need shields for that one. Obviously, if he has a Swampert in the back, that would have been a problem, but you can see on his screen, it is a Medicham. I knew he wasn't going to make it to a Dazzling Gleam, so I'm not going to shield, but honestly, even shielding here is maybe not the best play. We do get the full Shadow Claw down, which is nice. Probably could have gone for a Foul Play Baits. I was expecting maybe an Umbreon on the back, potentially Altaria, but it's actually going to be that Medicham. I shield this in case it's Umbreon because I just want to get taken out by Foul Play, but unfortunately, once I saw this, I was like, all right, well, that's GG's. It is a Power Punch, Ice Punch Medicham, so definitely a little different than the standard variant, just like mine. Power Punch is definitely going to put in a ton of work here, really ramping up all their attack here. But there's really no way for me to win this matchup, even if they had Psychic here. Getting the full counter down here, and then even throwing the Ice Punch for good measure. Boost Ice Punch. I'm going to just let this go. Not really much I could do at this point. All right, so we're going to have to make an adjustment for game number 3 here. Obviously, Medicham was very clutch for him, but recognizing that alone Ninetales is really the only reliable thing to beat that Noctowl, I could potentially bring in Double Steel, because that Glaring Weezing is a huge pain for me. And Noctowl has some okay neutral play there too, so I could potentially stay in there, do something. But I think that's my team composition idea. Noctowl can beat the Swampert, the Medicham. Has okay matchups against Umbreon, Altaria, but honestly, if it's anything besides Medicham or Swampert, I'm going to swap out to Registeel to draw their Anti-Seal. He's really only brought one Anti-Seal on every team so far. He brought Double Fairy, and then also brought Fairy and Umbreon in the first game. So, unless he's expecting Double Seal here, I should be in a good spot. So, that's pretty much my thought process. Medicham and Sable, I definitely don't have too much play into this Double Fairy comp, and I finally made that realization game 3. Alright, so going into game number 3 here, as you can see, it's actually going to work really well in my favor. Altaria and Fairy type in the back, Glaring Weezing is going to be very favorable for me. I'm going to take the first Hydro Cannon, of course. I really don't want him to catch a Sky Attack. There would just be a lot of wasted energy, unfortunately, if that's the case. But we're going to see what happens here, and throws another Hydro. I'm going to shield this, of course. try to throw a Sky Attack soon. And he actually does end up catching a Sky Attack. So great timing on his end. But at the end of the day, we can also just farm up a lot of energy. Fairy Wind is not going to do much damage. I'm going to leave with a Sky Attack. And then come in with Bastion. Bastion should be able to smack this all the way down. And Bastion actually does a decent amount of damage back to Swampert, even though it's all resisted. Shadow Swampert's not going to appreciate the Stone Edge and the smackdowns. I also did lose track of his energy on his Swampert, which is my own fault. But as you can see in this next few seconds, I actually don't optimize my moves here. I just throw the Stone Edge right away. I should have thrown Smackdown first. But all things considered, it's really... I guess the wing attack damage actually is going to add up. So one extra Smackdown would have been nice. That being said, he is going to throw his Hydro Cannon here. I know I'm going to lose CMP, so I'm not really going to try to even throw the Sky Attack. I'm going to try Wing Attack down, see what they have in the back. Especially if it's a Medicham, I don't really want to waste the energy on a CMP situation here. So, of course, at this point, there's not really too much I can handle this Registeel, and this is the ideal situation. I was actually expecting the lone Ninetales at this point because, again, he doesn't really have checks for that knocked out. We're laughing here because he was just not expecting double seal. He was like, dude, there's no way you actually were going to bring after that Medicham matchup in Game 2 against Bastion, but, you know, got to double down there too. I knew how strong that Galarian Weezing was. I figured he was going to bring it every time. I knew how necessary that lone Ninetales was. I guess Poopsu didn't actually agree there. Didn't think it was as necessary in game number 3. You know, either way, it would have been a really bad matchup in the back end. Either way. We're in a pretty good spot here. I'm just going to pivot out here. I know they don't have a Sky Attack ready, and they have to throw the energy at my Noctowl to even take it out, and I still have a lot of health on my Registeel, but I should be able to outpace to the Sky Attack as well to finish them off. But yeah, pretty much use every Pokemon in this set. Not all of them were useful, but I did end up using all 6 of my Pokemon at some point in time here. Definitely not the most meta team, but one of the most important things is to consider is how to utilize your team against non-meta teams. But yeah, so biggest difference for my team is I'm running Dynamic Punch, Ice Punch, Medicham, and it's going to be very good in a lot of my matchups. But speaking of things that are very good, Venusaur is actually the best thing here. Sophtoph actually misses a Mud Shot coming in here, which I personally didn't realize because it looked like there's a little stutter on both ends, if I'm not mistaken. So it was hard for me to even keep track. But obviously she noticed it because she's seeing the missed energy. Well, actually she's about to see it now because she shouldn't be able to CMP. Yeah, she missed one there. She should have been able to throw that before I got to this Frenzy, but ends up CMPing. So obviously missed a Mud Shot. I'm going to shield either way though. I am expecting a knockdown in the back. So I just want to maintain alignment. Have this for the Lantern. So ends up getting both Rock Slides off. But we'll talk more about why that makes a difference in the end game here. I'm expecting the knockdown to come in, but I just leave with a Sludge Bomb just to be safe. I didn't want to pivot right away because I know I live a Wing Attack. She goes straight for the surface. It's going to be a Spark Lantern, so very easy to figure out the timings on the moves. I'm going to throw the Zapcan debuff here. If she shields this, I'm in a pretty good spot overall. But because I could just come in and finish it off with the Venusaur. Actually, maybe even to farm a little bit here. Yeah. Yeah, Lantern does not win the 0 shield in this scenario. And she also knows my Venusaur's loaded, so it's kind of a waste of a shield. She doesn't even see my 3rd Pokemon yet. Something I should have done here is obviously she has to go for a Shadow Ball. I could just swap to my Noctowl to try to catch it. I mean, it's kind of a risky play, but she would have to leave with a bunch of banked energy from my Registeel afterward. Instead, I just forced her to throw the Shadow Ball energy, which is still something. But I think a potential... It's a risky, but not that risky catch that I could have made. I would have really sealed the deal if I caught that Shadow Ball. But it would have been a nice play to see as well on the stream. We're just going to play safe here, though, and just build up a lot of energy. This is going to force her last shield, which is really nice because I know I have the energy loaded. I'm not going to try to make any fancy plays and swap in. I don't want to swap in on a move or a Wing Attack. I'm just going to wait for my Noctowl to get KO'd and then finish off with the Venusaur. But I actually do survive with like 1 HP and get a Sky Attack off, so the Frenzy Plant / Sludge Bomb was not needed. She does bring this up to the judges here, so they do take a look at it, and they deliberated a bit, and decide that the rematch was warranted. At the time, I wasn't really sure why, because I'm thinking like, well, I have a Sludge Bomb loaded and a Friend Spin loaded on my Venusaur, and even if she had a shield remaining, she didn't have to shield her Stunfisk in the lead matchup there, I still would have won. But the difference here being is that Sophtoph actually over-farmed against my Noctowl because she knew my Venusaur was in the back, and her only chance was to hope that she could potentially throw a move before I got to mine. And maybe I didn't have the energy, but I did have the energy either way. But anyway, if she had the shield, she would just throw the Sky Attack earlier, knock down my Noctowl, and then has the shield for the Venusaur. She could just shield my Venusaur and Wing Attack down. So that's a thought process on what happens there, because she would have an extra shield in the late game. The other thought process, because it happened so early, it would require her to play that matchup exactly perfectly to have a chance to win there. So that's a flip side of the argument of what the rematch, if the rematch shouldn't be granted. Either way, I think there's a good case for both ends, and I was like, all right, yeah, that's fine. I'll agree with the judge call. The thing I don't like the most about these calls, though, is that you could run any line, and she decided to run the same line, but I wasn't sure if she was going to or not, so I ended up switching it up. It ran into a terrible lead, but this was going to be my game 2 strategy either way, so I decided to just run with it. And essentially, it's obviously she has a Sableye in the back. I'm kind of in a tough spot. But outside of that, Medicham can grab a shield or win the 0 shield scenario against anything. Oh, okay. Actually, if she has her own Medicham, I also lose that situation too. So that's also another downside. But she ended up bringing the same line, which is good for me because I know that my Medicham can beat her Noctowl in the 0 shield scenario. So I grab a shield advantage. And on top of that, I draw out the hardest counter to my Venusaur, which is perfect because now my Venusaur has a lot of play into the entire backline matchup. I'm just going to go for aggressive Wing Attack down. It's okay if I get hit by Sky Attacks here, but the main thing is I just want as much energy as possible. I don't want to have to throw any energy here. I can leave with a bunch of energy, which could come in useful later. I mean, Strap Ball still does a respectable amount of damage to Lantern if I need it. She ends up staying in here to throw a Surf, so that's obviously a great situation for me. Not only am I getting extra farm, but this is all resisted damage. And as expected, it was not going to be a Venusaur counter in the back. So it's kind of a neutral matchup, but Venusaur typically is going to do pretty favorable here, especially with shields up, especially with the shield advantage and an energy advantage on top of that. So I'm going to throw the Frenzy Plants here. She has to shield pretty much. I'm going to throw back-to-back here. I don't really want to mess around. And she's going to spend her second shield, but this is a pretty good spot for me. Obviously, I still have a shield remaining here, and because I came in with extra energy, I'm going to get to this Frenzy Plant pretty quickly. So I'm going to try to leave with the Frenzy Plant and snipe down with the Sky Attack. That's exactly what I end up doing here. And again, this energy on the Noctowl is going to prove to be useful because I have, I'm able to still get to a Shadow Ball before she knocks me out. And of course, I have the Frenzy Plant loaded on my Venusaur, so I'm going to win charge and priority either way, even if she farms down my Noctowl. I'm in a pretty good spot for this situation. A little latency coming in, but it didn't really make a difference. We both couldn't press our charge moves, so is able to get the Frenzy Plant off. Yeah, if she got the Thunderbolt off, then that probably would have been a rematch as well in that situation if it knocked down my Venusaur. But luckily, we didn't have to keep playing rematches, and this game is going to count towards my total. And then we're going to game number 3 here. Obviously, my Venusaur is super strong into her team. So what I'm going to do in this game 3 is I'm going to make a read that she's going to over-prepare for my Venusaur again. You know, have the Glaring Stunfisk, have the Noctowl, something like that. And I'm actually choosing not to bring my Venusaur. We're going to rescan codes here too, because just to make sure, because there was a little stutter on both ends. So we want to make sure we have a clean game number 2, or I guess 3 technically if you count the first game. But yeah, that's my strategy here. Obviously she has to respect the Venusaur, so that Noctowl is going to come in some way, shape, or form. So my thought is I'm going to bring the Registeel pretty good into her whole team for the most part. She doesn't really have any hard counters. I mean, obviously if the Medicham is not running Psychic, it's running... Yeah, I think I knew her Medicham was actually running Ice Punch and Psychic because both of us were actually on stream earlier, so both of us knew each other's movesets on the Medicham, and I believe I saw Ice Punch Psychic on hers. So Registeel can win the 0 shield scenario there. But I decided to go with Registeel with my Medicham and Noctowl in the back. Obviously, Medicham's not a winning matchup versus Noctowl, but in the 0 shield scenario and just in general, it actually could hit much harder back. And she's been bringing Galarian Stunfisk and Lantern to every single other game as well. But also, even if she goes neutral with Lickitung, I'm still pretty good. So I obviously have 3 winning matchups against Lantern, Lickitung, Galarian Stunfisk. Not great matchups against her Medicham and Noctowl, but some play. And then obviously a losing matchup into Sableye. But I'm going to bring my own Noctowl here as well. It's a decent mirror matchup for me. And then also I have the Registeel to round it out against her Noctowl if I get it locked in. So we're going to game number 2/3 here. It's actually, she said she went the same line 3 times in a row, actually. Pretty wild. I did not expect that. But we get rid of one of Noctowl's hardest counters. I know that I win the 0 shield scenario here. And if I don't win it, if she shields it up, I'm just going to counter down with Medicham. And even my Noctowl has a lot of play into her Galarian Stunfisk, especially up a shield. So at this point in time, once I saw this lead, I knew I was going to be in a very good spot overall. I'm going to overfarm here a little bit. I'm going to throw the Focus Blast. And she actually chooses not to shield. So I think she is expecting Venusaur, doesn't want to go down shields here. And I think that's a smart play if she is expecting a Venusaur on the back. She's going to throw Sky Attacks here. We run into some weird mutual latency. So she couldn't throw her Sky Attack, right? I think she wanted to, potentially. So it's forced to shield a Zap Cannon. But it's going to farm up a lot of energy here and then come in with her Galarian Stunfisk. Snipes you down with the Mud Shots, but I'm pretty okay with this because I have my Medicham here. And I have Dynamic Punch Medicham. And this is where it comes in really handy. I could win this very handily. Just with one Dynamic Punch. I'm going to throw this right before she gets to her Rock Slide. But again, we get a little stutter here. So I kind of lost count. I think timing-wise for the most part. Maybe could have got one more counter off. But nothing too much. She has pretty much max energy at this point. So she's not even going to overfarm here. Which is the good call by her. She does have a Sky Attack banked. But I have 2 shields. And she has some chip damage. And I think looking at this logically, I'm pretty sure I win this matchup. I have a pretty good ranked Noctowl as well, too. So I know that in all these mirror matchups, I'm going to do pretty well. But you can see a lot of shields on both sides. We're just going to use them all. I mean, there's no point not shielding one of these, right? She does have another Sky Attack ready, and she's going to get there. I think she wants CMP, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is the first time we're actually finding that info out. Yeah, it's going to be CMP. Like I said, I have a pretty high rank Noctowl, but I have some residual energy here, and I should be able to get to that final Sky Attack before she does. I think I actually live one more Sky Attack from her as well, too, so it wouldn't have made too much of a difference. We did talk over the judge to see if her getting that Sky Attack off so that she didn't have to use the shield makes a difference or not, but because I have Dynamic Punch Medicham, there's just no way that she wins that matchup, and the trade-off is she wouldn't have gotten that farm on the Noctowl had she thrown the Sky Attack. She would have left with no energy. So we talked her through with the judge and decided that it wasn't going to make a difference, and even if she got that move off. So we are in day number 2 here. We're going against Boomerbrhel, and he is running a definitely an interesting team with the Medicham standard moveset Medicham, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, actually, almost everyone had standard Medicham moveset outside of XJerald and myself in the day 2. But Dugong, Double Ground, Sableye, Noctowl. Venusaur actually looked really good into this team. But after doing some scrims in practice the night before, I just realized that Venusaur is much hard to bring. It doesn't have the same compression ability as Trevenant does. It just doesn't hard win a lot of things. Like, obviously, Venusaur, you still have to shield the Medicham. You sometimes still have to shield the Galarian Stunfisk, although Trevenant you do too. So, but yeah, I mean, Venusaur's pretty good into Dugong, Medicham, Galarian Stunfisk, Swampert, has neutral play into Sableye, loses to Noctowl. So you would think, kind of similar to Sophtoph's team, Venusaur would be pretty good. But I decided not to bring Venusaur after doing some practices. I did definitely try some, and it was okay. But I think we're just going to roll with a non-Venusaur team and see how that goes. Into game number 1 here. Sableye is pretty decent into this team, so I'm going to run a Sableye lead. Just have to avoid the Noctowl matchup. We don't really know who wins CMP here. My Sableye is fairly highly ranked, and as you can see, it's going to lose CMP. So not the best situation, but at this point, I am going to get my foul play off here. I expect him to shield as well, and I'm going to try to catch the foul play afterward. And here's what I did not see coming, because I was going to go for the catch, but I didn't expect him to also make the same catch attempt. So we end up swapping simultaneously. Now, this is not too bad for me because we're already down a shield. And the thing is, I know that my Registeel is able to beat Galarian Stunfisk in the 0 shield scenario. Most Galarian Stunfisk are, because you have to go for double Earthquake here because the one-shot damage is not enough for Rock Slide to be enough at this range. And I think Boomer knows this as well, so is going to throw the Rock Slide before, just to get some chip damage here before I throw another move. I farm up a little extra, take some extra much-shot damage so I don't have too much farm to give. I throw the Zap Cannon. I know Zap Cannon KOs anyway. I throw it just in case he decides to shield so I can at least debuff him a little bit coming into whatever I come in with next. And this is a pretty good spot for me, but of course, I don't know what's in the back end here. I'm thinking maybe it's a Noctowl, which is not great because, of course, you know, he has to watch out for the Venusaur. And that's not going to be a great spot. So part of me is thinking like, shoot. I also overfarmed here. I kind of lost track of counts. I did not want a CMP. I should just throw in the Sky Attack ahead of time. You can see myself shaking my head a little bit. Not happy with that. But I had to save the shield here for my Sableye. My Sableye is so low. So if there's a Noctowl, I have a little bit of play. Fortunately, it's actually a Swampert, which I did not anticipate. But this is going to be pretty good for me. Because we have 2 Foul Plays loaded. We just need to land 1, and the Shadow Claw damage is enough. I don't really want to risk going for the first turn here. I could lose CMP. And like I said, I have a pretty high rank Sableye, so I'm going to likely lose CMP and get Swampert as well. But it's going to force him to throw this Hydro Cannon. You can see he is recognizing and said good games to me as well at this point in time because he knows that the Mudshot's just not enough to take out the Noctowl and cannot get to the Hydro Cannon. So kind of lucked out there. Obviously, my misplay was miscounting that matchup against the opposing Sableye. I should just throw my Sky Attack right when I had it. Honestly, it's just a safe play in general because I need some health for opposing potential knockdown in the back as well. But we did get a little lucky there. It is a Swampert in the back, so it worked out for us. All right, preparing for game number 2 here. Again, I'm thinking Venusaur is just like a little hard to bring. You know, it definitely feels a little hard to bring than, let's say, like the team that Sophtoph had. Even though their teams are kind of similar, I don't know. I just didn't love the fact that there's that Dewgong that could just debuff me compared to like a Lickitung that Soph had. So I believe in this matchup, I decided to bring in the Medicham. Medicham, as you can see, had a lot of play into everything on Boomer's team except for that Sableye. But looking at it overall, it's got great play against Dewgong, Galarian Stunfisk, okay matchup against Noctowl, and then a little better into Swampert without Psychic because you get to that second Dynamic Punch fast and you get to the second Psychic. Obviously, Ice Punch is still probably enough neutral damage in most situations. Shields are up, so that's not too bad. But I do decide to bring in the Medicham in the back and see how it goes. And so with me, a Registeel, I decided to run Registeel with Sableye and Medicham. Again, I could lure out the Noctowl potentially if there is one. And he's not going to stay in here. I'm not going to shield this drill run. Obviously, it's going to do a decent amount of damage, but Registeel is pretty bulky. So that's not the end of the world. And then we throw a Zapkin here. Either way, I figure I'm probably going to swap out here, try to draw out the potential Noctowl. No debuff, which is definitely unfortunate. But he's going to throw Icy Wind here. So overall, this tells me that he either is wasting energy or he doesn't have a Noctowl. And turns out there's no Noctowl in the back. So that's going to be pretty good for me. I'm going to throw the Foul Play here just to do some chip damage before I get debuffed again. And then, yeah, we throw another Foul Play here. So we get off 2 Foul Plays, which is definitely worthwhile than just 1 return. And he actually is going to swap here. And I get to my 3rd Foul Play faster than he gets the first one, of course, because 6-6-5-6 for the Foul Play counts. So that is going to work out in my favor because, again, if you remember, I am going to lose CMP there. So getting that off was pretty huge. This is still a little uncomfortable, which I have to shield this. I know I get hit by 1 Foul Play, but again, there is no Noctowl in the back, so I know my Medicham is going to be pretty strong in the back. However, if he shields the Zap Cannon, I'm in trouble, especially if he has his own Medicham in the back. I'm going to throw the Zap Cannon, and it looks like he is going to shield, which is really unfortunate because I now have to come into Sableye. I don't want to give this any more energy, and as you can see, I am shaking my head a little bit. Don't love this. I'm looking at his team sheet just to see what he potentially could even have in the back. I'm really hoping for a Swampert or a Galarian Stunfisk here. Those are my ideal matchups. Him coming in with Dewgong here is also a good sign because this probably means that it's not Medicham. But honestly, I knew it was likely not Medicham or Swampert at this point because he had a Registeel. He stayed in against a Registeel with Dugong. If he had 2 like soft checks or checks to Registeel in the back, he would have swapped to it. Here's where Dynamic Punch came in clutch here yet again. I am debuffed and still doing a ton of damage. Of course, I know he's going to throw the Rock Slide around CMP, because if he doesn't, he just gets KO'd. So he's going to throw it, and that's why I go for the catch here. I'm definitely keep track of his counts, because he's potentially going to farm me down and leave with the Rock Slide. But he only threw 3 mud shots to my counts. I could not remember how much energy he had on Sableye, so I'm going to throw this right away and hope it wasn't CMP. And luckily, he was still a little bit further away. And I'm just 1 counter away from my next move, and we are able to close it out here too. So Dynamic Punch Medicham doing work here as expected. I mean, it's just coming clutch for me in a lot of situations. Psychic Medicham just cannot pull that off. All right, going into XJerald here in the winner semifinals. His Medicham is actually running Psychic Dynamic Punch, which is super interesting. It makes my Venusaur much better because you can't bait with Ice Punch. I mean, you could best bait with Dynamic Punch, which is a little less energy. But yeah, XJerald was really fun to watch play and stuff too. He had great energy and stuff and positivity, which was great. And he was running a very interesting team with Dunsparce and Altaria, actually, which is kind of interesting. But Dunsparce is actually a decent core breaker. Honestly, that Dunsparce looks really good into a lot of teams. Obviously, you know, Medicham on every team sounds like a bad idea. But, I mean, I got Bastion, and I still made it work, right? And Dunsparce at least has more play into Medicham than Bastion does. But Dunsparce just being a decent core breaker for a lot of things like Sableye Noctowl, has played into Registeel now. Yeah, it's just really good, I think, in my opinion. Has played into a Alolan Sandslash, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, I think it's a really solid pick. Has played into Altaria, and it was definitely what Gerald ran quite a bit of throughout the tournament. So we're gonna have to see how this goes. Obviously, my Medicham is decent into this team, but I expect there to be a decent amount of Sableye, and then his Medicham, even though it can't bait me with Ice Punch or Power Punch, that Psychic is still gonna win the head-to-head. So we run into a Registeel mirror matchup here. I really want to figure out who wins CMP here, because my plan is to potentially try to catch a Focus Blast if I lose CMP here. Spoiler, it didn't work out that way, but it was a good plan for someone here. So he doesn't throw the Focus Blast, and I have no idea who's going to win CMP. I figure mine probably would lose. I have a decent rank Registeel, but you never know what the opponent's running. I throw a Focus Blast, and he actually makes the play that I want to make here. I mean, I was going to make this play after seeing who wins CMP, because I figured if he wants CMP, then he has to throw after 2 shields are down. But, yeah, he ends up just throwing the foul play, catching the high Focus Blast, which is not ideal for me, but that's fine. We're going to come in with our Noctowl here. And my Sableye is fairly safe into this team. Obviously, Dunsparce is kind of annoying, but you do a decent amount of damage back. And then Lickitung is kind of annoying too, but it's not as bad as Noctowl, in my opinion. And then Altaria is not as good into Sableye as Noctowl is, so I felt pretty comfortable with Sableye in every game here. And here comes a core breaker. This thing has play into my entire lineup. I mean, it beats Noctowl, beats Sableye, and it has play into Registeel, and it's going to come out with a lot of energy, which is not great. So it's going to throw this Rock Slide here against my Noctowl. I barely hang on here. I could have optimized there, but I just wasn't sure if I was going to live the rollout or not. So I'm going to throw this. I do live it, so I'm going to go for the combo play. I honestly should have thrown Zap Cannon. I just figured he probably wasn't going to shield, and then I could potentially outpace the high Focus Blast, or come close, I guess. Actually, no, he had the Focus Blast loaded, so I guess it wouldn't have mattered too much. I should have just thrown Zap Cannon. Maybe that's just me kind of losing track here. So I need to solve my timer here. At this point, I need to overfarm here. Nothing that Gerald throws here is really a huge threat, because Zap Cannon is still going to one-shot me after any chip damage. So I had to shield Zap Cannon. He has a Zap Cannon loaded, which is not going to be a great time for me. I am going to shield, and unfortunately we get debuffed here. So my only win condition here is to catch a Zap Cannon, and I had to go for when he had the move. Obviously I could try to overfarm, but if I overfarm, I lose. So I just had to hope that he was going to throw right on the move, and he did. That's a huge saving point for me there too. Had I not made the catch, had he just went over, I would have lost. Had I tried to go over, I would have lost. So had to time that perfectly there. But we go back-to-back foul play here. and good sportsmanship from Gerald, of course, you can see. And we are able to kind of eke out a win there too. Not the best situation for me. Like, I kind of had to play really well to get out of that one. So yeah, it was a win, but it wasn't as convincing as I wanted to be. I think there were definitely some shielding situations, like especially that Zap Cannon versus Dunsparce. I could just played a little better, I think. I think all in all, it wouldn't have made a difference if it was debuffed or not, but just little things I could have cleaned up on. Great catch from him too, to catch that Focus Blast, wasting all that energy. But yeah, so we're going to have to go into game number 2 and see how it goes. I expect that Dunsparce to come out again, but, you know, after running ABA weak to Medicham, I expected maybe he was going to bring his own Medicham or some Medicham counter, and it actually is going to be Sableye with double weak to Medicham in the back, so pretty strong line from the team composition standpoint. I am going to just no shield, throw Zapcan and see what happens. And it is going to get shielded up. So I think I go my Sableye if it gets debuffed. And I see it does get debuffed, so I'm going to swap out right away. He probably is going to swap out too because he doesn't want to throw debuff foul play. And as predicted, it is going to be a Dunsparce, which again is a core breaker. But I'm going to go for the hard hitting return. And as you can see, it does quite a bit of damage here. I don't have to shield the first drill run by any means. Definitely going to try to optimize my timing here to get the most out of this. Obviously having 2 drill runs. I'm going to have the shields here. If I get the knockdown on his Sableye, I'm going to be in a pretty good position, especially because that Sableye has energy. And I'm thinking, shoot, this foul play is not enough to KO. And I don't know if I have to Shadow Call down or not. But I was able to just barely Shadow Call down, which worked out perfectly for me. I think at hindsight, for a second there, I thought maybe Return's a better play, but it turned out that foul play was just barely enough with the Shadow Claw damage. And we get a foul play off there too. We're in a really good spot, in my opinion. My Registeel has a little bit of energy. So my play here is, because I have more residual energy here, we're going to take it to the 0 shield here. We're going to shield up. He's going to shield up as well. I just need to land a Focus Blast, put in Shadow Ball or Sky Attack range. Of course, he can't bank that much energy on his Registeel, and I should be in a good spot. He's actually going to undercharge a little bit after a nice, which I think it would have been enough to undercharge. But as you can see, I'm going to get this Focus Blast first, and this is huge for me here too, right? So even though you have chip damage on your Registeel, they can't throw any lower energy move than the Focus Blast, so it is going to be pretty nice for me here. And he has some residual energy, of course, because he overfarmed. But we're going to get the Sky Attack. Obviously, if he made a catch there, I think I still win even makes his catch there because I take out the Sableye, and then I should be able to live the Zap Cannon to get to another Sky Attack. So that's why I just went for the move right away. Like, I wasn't really worried if a catch happened. So yeah, we go up 2-0 there. That game, obviously, I felt a lot better about than the first game, just because I think I executed how I want things to be executed. So yeah, we're going to game number 3 here. I'm expecting that Medicham to come in potentially here. I don't know. I'm just thinking like, okay, his Medicham is pretty solid into my team too. Dynamic Punch Medicham is just so much stronger into Registeel's. Registeel's just not a great safe swap, which is why I think I led Registeel both times, because I can't really safe swap Medicham into his team because his Medicham is super. I can't safe swap my Registeel into his team because his Medicham is so strong into opposing Registeel safe swaps. This is one of the biggest reasons why I decided to bring Medicham. I wanted opponents to not have anything safe to safe swap into my team. Registeel being super meta here is very strong into even Power Punch Medicham. If you have a good IV, Registeel, you still could win the 0s, or if they get debuffed, you still win the 0s against Medicham. Power Punch Medicham. So yeah, so he actually did bring the Medicham here. But unfortunately, yet again, this Dunsparce Core Breaker is a huge pain. So what I really want to do here is put it in foul play range, so that I have some play here. So that's why I decide to stay in here and get the Sky Attack off. I think I probably swapped to Sableye after this. Yeah, so we finally get the shield here. I swapped to my own Sableye here, and then he is going to throw the Drill Run, and I'm not going to shield here. Maybe I throw the foul play. I should probably overfarm here. Okay, yeah, I guess I don't. This is very uncomfortable for me. Had I known how strong the Sableye was, I probably would have shielded there. But he is going to let the Sunsparks go. Unfortunately, I don't have I have energy banked, but like, I don't know. It's not great because my Noctowl is chunked by this point, and he's going to come out with energy. Obviously, my Venusaur is pretty strong in the back end here. But I need to get rid of the Sableye. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I live the foul play. This is what I need. If I live the foul play, I'm in a good spot. Unfortunately, I did not. Had I shield there, probably would have been okay. Especially because CMP, I wouldn't have got too much value out of that shield. So I think also my own fault for losing track. He actually goes straight for the return here. Had I just thrown the friends play early, I think I would have been in a good spot. But I do end up shielding the return. I knew that even if it is a Medicham in the back, he is going to outpace, unfortunately, before I could get to 3 fence plant, which is what I need. So a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. I think we ran into a little stutter there. So it made it a little bit hard for me to keep track of counts. But I was telling the judges, like, it doesn't change the outcome, so I don't want to rematch. I just want to see if we could, like, rescan our phones and stuff. And they were cool with that, so we just rescanned our phones and everything. Just for context on what we were talking about there, too. I think there's nothing I could have done to win that matchup, but there was stutter on both ends, which made it hard for both myself and Gerald to kind of make counts. But you know, that'll happen sometimes. So if you're ever on stage, you see that happen, just let the judges know, right? See if you could restart your phones, refresh the cache, etc. All right. Enough of these double weak to Medicham teams. I decide to finally bring in my Medicham with Dynamic Punch. And this is where it's really going to excel. And I'm going to win the 0 shield pretty handily here. He doesn't swap out, and I land a Dynamic Punch. So I just had to shield this. I'm thinking, all right, there's probably a Dunsparce in the back, maybe even a Lickitung, and I want to preserve the health. Zapkin's going to do a lot of damage. As you can see, so much health preserved here, and I expected a Sableye to be there, so I am going to swap to my Sableye here, draw the Dunsparce, and the timing was unfortunate. It was essentially a sync swap, so he swapped in Dunsparce and got a rollout through during my throw animation, so I guess a free 2 turns there. So really good timing from Gerald there. I'm gonna go for the return here. If he shields, great spot for me. If he doesn't shield, I pretty much take out Dunsparce and my Noctowl's free reign here. Obviously he has a shield advantage, but Noctowl can typically overcome that Sableye as well. I have Dynamic Punch Medicham, so even if I need to, I can still Dynamic Punch the Sableye if need be. I got the counter through without even getting hit by rollout, which is kind of nice. Save myself a little damage. He actually has a decent amount of energy on the Sableye, but is also chunked quite a bit. So that's not too bad, right? So even my Medicham has some play here. I know that my specific Noctowl can survive a foul play and a return. So my play at this point was to not shield anything. If he goes double foul play here, that's a different story. Then I need to shield the third one. But if he goes return and foul play, I know I get this next Sky Attack also. So I think some people were like really nervous, like, oh, did he throw by not shielding the return? But I already knew at that point in time that I just no shield the return. He farms me down. He has to get to 2 more foul plays. Honestly, he has to get a foul play and a return. My health range is not even in foul play range. But I had to move here. I still had the shield. I could even go on Dynamic Punch if I need to. But we were able to wrap it up here against Gerald. But either way, winners finals here. Because I already qualified, he also is qualifying for Worlds. And so congratulations, Gerald. Very excited to see him compete at Worlds 2. We are going into the grand finals, and I'm sure you all want to hear my thoughts behind this matchup. Truth be told, I was honestly just rooting for Gerald for selfish reasons in the losers finals because I knew that I had a much better team composition into his team, but the odds did not work out in my favor. Elite ended up winning in game number 5 against Gerald. In the losers finals, clawed all his way back to the grand finals after taking an early loss in the winners on day 1. So very impressive stuff from Elite and very well-deserved chance to play in the grand finals. This is a Alolan Sandslash. Honestly, it beats / has play into 5 of my Pokemon. And I knew it looked bad, but I didn't realize how bad it looked until the game started. So, if you don't know what happens here for some reason, you're about to find out. It's not pretty. Has very commanding matchups against Noctowl, Venusaur, shields up against Bastiodon and Sableye, and even Registeel. So, and we see here, at this point, the moment I swapped, I knew this was over. I knew that there's no way that he doesn't have a Sableye in the back because he needs 2 checks for that Medicham. And the only harder check to that Noctowl for the to Medicham than Noctowl is Sableye. And unfortunately, in this matchup, there's just no way you could win it. I go straight foul play here because I know some people are like, why not even build up to the return? I'm pretty positive, if I'm not mistaken, that straight foul play is actually better in this situation. I played out quite a bit of times in GBL to the point where you can at least force a shield, right? So, yeah. Maybe his specific Noctowl can't withstand the return. I don't know. But I just knew at this point it was over. There's like no way there's not a lone sand slash or opposing Medicham. Opposing Medicham would be kind of annoying too. I'm going to throw the Shadow Ball just for some good measure. Just because I know I lose CMP later. But unfortunately, I'm trying to catch an Ice Punch too. Unfortunately, not able to. And I knew at this point, not in a great spot. That Dynamic Punch Medicham, though, is a little better into Sableye. But it's not good enough. It is a Sableye. It's a Purified Sableye too. Had it been Shadow, maybe a little difference maker. We do CMP here. So I'm going to try to throw the Ice Punch here. Unfortunately, Switch Timers are not coming up anytime soon. He has a ton of energy. There's no reason for him not to shield at this point. So he could just safely just like overfarm here maybe. Yeah, he's going to overfarm here. Really smart play by him and throw right when he's at the move. Yeah, I have some energy on the Noctowl, but just not enough. He could throw this. He also has the Ice Punch ready, so I knew this was over. But yeah. Looking back on it, I try to mix up my teams as a spoiler alert for the next 5 games, but I should have tried to just force my Medicham into every one of these games, because just the threat that alone Sandslash is a huge problem. But Medicham also has decent matchups against Swampert. Again, it has some play into Noctowl, not great, but it could do something there, and it has a great matchup against the Regiseal. So I should have just forced my Medicham. I think I was just 1, too nervous about his Sableye, and 2, his Medicham was the standard moveset, which is going to win the mirror matchup. And I think I got in my own head a little bit there, and I thought maybe it's too predictable if I keep bringing Medicham. But also, every time I get Medicham into a Sableye or even Noctowl with shields up, I'm just in a weird spot, right? But I think that's just a gamble I had to make at that point. I was also on the winner side of the grand final, so I could technically lose the set and still be okay. I had a great lead here. And honestly, this is one of the few games that I think I could have won, but I fell into a trap. So I'm thinking, all right, whole point of Dynamic Punch Medicham is to be able to win the 0 shield here, right? I should be in a good spot, but I kind of fell into the exact trap that he wanted me to fall into, which is, yeah, he wanted to draw my Medicham. What I should have done there, for anyone watching this video and trying to learn from my mistake, is what I should have done is thrown a Sky Attack, swap in my Regiseal into his. He needs 2 charge moves to take out my Regiseal. I would only need 1 at that point, so I still win all even shields after that point. And I can maintain alignment. And then I have my Medicham against this Lone Sandslash. GG's. Honestly, I did something similar again to Gerald in that matchup, but unfortunately, I just did not make the right call in this one. He does go for the return here. It's a smart play by him, and he comes in Lone Sandslash. At this point, I was in a tough spot. 1, I should have shielded this. I thought maybe he might bait for whatever reason. Not a great idea. And 2, I should have thrown Zapkin in here to debuff so that the Shadow Claw and drill runs don't add up too much. But because I let the first drill run go, I thought maybe I just go straight for the foul Focus Blast here. Not a great call. I'm also almost in Ice Punch range at this point, and he's doubled up on drill run, so he doesn't even need to bait. I thought maybe he's going to bait. Unfortunately, I don't even get the the Focus Blast off, which is unfortunate. Yeah, not a great spot. Really well played by him in this situation. I even go for the bait here on CMP. Not a good time. It's a good call by him not to even shield this, which, spoiler, he doesn't shield. But yeah, I think this specific matchup was one of the few matches I could have potentially won against elites, and I kind of blundered it a bit. These next couple matchups, though, man, he made every right. Let alone the team composition advantage, he also just made every right read, which is not a great time for me. So at this point, I'm thinking, all right, what do I do into this team? It's starting to like hit me how strong his own Sandslash and team composition is. And I'm thinking, all right, well, he doesn't have Dynamic Punch Medicham. He doesn't have Power Punch Medicham. So I could probably safe swap the Regiseal, right? Do something here, right? This Noctowl is everywhere. It's haunting my Sableye in a lot of situations. So I could potentially, take out the Regiseal, or take out something, or grab a shield advantage with my Regiseal safe swap. So that's kind of the thought process going into game number 3 here. Of course, I do have one extra set to play with, so even if I lose this, it's not the end of the world. But I want to try to get back in the rhythm of things. And of course, Sableye locked in, knocked out, not great. And the one time I really want there not to be a Swampert in the bag, there's a Swampert in the bag. So really great read by him. Yeah, we go for the Focus Blast here. Maybe if I shield a high Earthquake, I could potentially be okay. But he makes a crazy read and goes straight Hydro Cannon, which is not great for me. Builds up the Earthquake here, and then goes for another Hydro Cannon here. I end up double shielding. Not a great spot. Yeah, talk about making every correct read when you need to. Yeah, so really good reads by him. He honestly didn't even overcharge there, but he probably could have if we're going to be picky, but maybe he was scared of a swap. I don't know. Either way, he's going to get to a Hydro Cannon here and throws on CMP as well. But I just need to get rid of the Swampert, all things considered. I'm just, yeah, there's no way. I mean, looking at the matchups here, there's just nothing I could do at this point in time. Yeah, this is just not going to be a good time. Medicham actually would have been pretty decent to this team. But of course, I did not bring Medicham. Looking back on it again, reflecting on it, I should have just brought Medicham into more of these games. I'm going to throw a Shadow Ball for good measure, but there's just not really much I can do at this point in time. So we do get a bracket reset at least. Give myself time to kind of reset things and see if I could get the groove on. Part of me was thinking like, yeah, I mean, if I lose on game number 5 after going on a 2-0 run, like I'm still back to square one. So part of me is like, all right, let's just get this next set started and see how we can make adjustment here. That Swampert is kind of a pain. I don't know. Maybe I need to bring Venusaur, but again, Venusaur is so hard to bring. He's bringing Noctowl and Alolan Sandslash in so many games. And the thing with Venusaur is you still kind of lose to Sableye if they're up on energy because it's really CMP dependent. And I probably even lose CMP there. I don't know. I have a pretty decently high ranked Shadow Venusaur here. Pretty decent lead matchup. I'm expecting potentially the knockdown on the back, so I end up shielding, but it's not a great idea to shield, especially when he has a Shadow Swampert in the back. I think a lot of people don't shield that move there, but I end up shielding it. We do get a tag drop, which is kind of nice. So he is going to throw the foul play. I need to draw this Noctowl some way, shape, or form. So I am going to bring in my Sableye here. And here comes the Noctowl. And of course, yeah, against elites, unfortunately, every time I matched up against using a Sableye, I somehow have it locked into his Noctowl. Again, had I had like Venusaur on the back, I might have been okay. Well, his Sableye does have energy, so it's actually not that great. But it would be a little better into the Swampert. Unfortunately, this time I have Medicham, which is not bad. The problem is I'm down shields. And I choose not to shield this. I can only do so much here. The problem here is I actually have to also throw energy. So I'm going to throw the Focus Blast before he gets to the Shadow Ball, which is something. But the Sableye in the back still has energy, and he has 2 shields. So yeah, this is not great. So we are going to have to build up to Dynamic Punch. But I think at this point, I already knew it was over. He doesn't even have to go for the Earthquake here or even build up to it. I am going to, yeah, I don't know. There's not too much I could do here because I don't want to throw on CMP, but at the same time, he has 2 shields I have to chew through. He is going to shield the first one because he's going to just get to another Hydro Cannon time, right? Yeah, he's going to go for the combo play. Good play by him. He knows I'm not at the move. And he's going to knock me out here. And then he still has a shield remaining for his Swampert. So there's that. And here comes Swampert. Nothing we can do here. Part of me is like thinking like, all right, I really don't want to bring this Venusaur because I feel like he's going to have that Alolan Sandslash in the back or Noctowl again. And yeah, it's not going to be a good time. But at the same time, like, how do I deal with this freaking Swampert, right? I have neutral matchups for sure against it, and I think maybe I should just play more on neutral matchups. I think that's one of the downsides of Venusaur, which is why you see a lot of people not bring Venusaur into their teams in competitive formats these days. I think it's still really solid, but only in the right matchups. Much better to Galarian Stunfisk teams, which unfortunately we're not running into one right now. But, you know, it definitely was my MVP against Sophtoph's team and could have been potentially against Boomer's team, but I chose not to bring it there. But against Elite's team, I just did not know how reliable it is. And as you can see, not reliable at all. There is, yet again, a knockdown for my Sableye there, but also a lone sand slash for my Venusaur. And I'm thinking, okay, well, probably knocked down the back again. How do I get around this? My own knockdown lead would have been pretty nice here, actually. But we do get the attack drop. And then here comes the knockdown. And we cannot really flip this matchup. I do have a shield advantage, so potentially. But again, I just like, it's so uncomfortable. I know that I'm in a really tough spot here because he's left with energy on Sableye. And my Venusaur's not going to be able to beat it unless I have a shield advantage. However, I don't know. I'm thinking I need to get rid of this knockdown somehow here. So I end up shielding. Just try to get rid of this. I'm kind of really hoping that he shields, but he ends up not shielding, which is a really great call from him. He recognizes that the Sableye is not really much of a threat anymore, and his Sableye has a lot of play. Even if I Medicham in the back, really great read by him. Like, what's he going to do, right? If I come in, yeah, I'm so low. I don't have energy here either. So you can take out my Registeel here, and if I have Medicham in the back, you still finish it off with the Sableye. So, excellent reads by him. And obviously, he's ahead on energy. His Sableye beats my Venusaur if he just stays in, but he doesn't even need to because he has a lone sand slash. So, at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'll just throw a Sludge Bomb for fun. There's nothing I can do at this point. There's no need to drag this on. But yeah, outread, outcomped, outplayed. So, going into this potential final game, at this point, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm the Bastion guy, so might as well just bring Bastion. See what happens. I'm going to double down again on my Venusaur. Maybe he brings a Medicham. Maybe he brings his Shadow Swampert. He hasn't brought Medicham once, actually, but I don't think he really needs to, right? I mean, after a 5-0 without Medicham, why would you bring Medicham at this point? But I'm thinking maybe there's a Swampert in the back, right? But I need Sableye again could draw out the potential Noctowl. So I'm thinking Bastion, Noctowl, Sableye. Yeah, Bastion, Sableye, Venusaur, sorry. Actually, a pretty decent lead for Bastion. It's not comfortable, but it's something that they have to respect. I at least win the 0 shield here. I think I win the 0-1 shield as well, actually. My Bastion's pretty high ranked. So my thought is, okay, I know he has a knockdown in the back. So I need to potentially get shields down so my Sableye can do something there. So that's my play here, right? So, and it's just tricky because if I bring in my own Sableye, I swap to it, he could chip it down and just farm me down with knockdown, just come out with a bunch of Shadow Ball energy. That's why I was content on just letting this go and try to farm down, come out with the shield advantage. As we saw in the last game, my Sableye could take out the knockdown if I have shield advantage. He actually double shields, which I actually was very surprised about. Maybe he thought I had a Medicham in the back, obviously, but I didn't, so it worked out for him either way. Unfortunately, I had the shield here, but I assume I'm expecting the knockdown to come in here. So I feel okay. If Noctowl comes in here, I'll be okay. He actually comes in a lone sand slash. And of course, at this point, I definitely can't switch. I know there's got to be a knockdown in the back at this point. I'm thinking, how do I get rid of this thing? Maybe I get to like 2 moves here. And unfortunately, I had the shield here. I think maybe I just no-shield this and try to double Sludge Bomb the Noctowl. I don't know. But once he comes in Noctowl, he's ahead on energy. I'm just in such a bad spot. There's just nothing we can do here. I mean, what do we do? Catch a Sky Attack? At this point, I knew there's nothing we can do. Could not get to move here. At this point, I was just like, good games. Well played. Nothing I can do. He knows it too. So really well played. Venusaur just did not come in handy. Like I said, I should have forced my Medicham more. In this matchup, especially given how dominant it was against the lone sand slash, but also against the Registeel, and has a lot of play against Swampert, and decent play into Noctowl as well. So congratulations to Elite here, but this was my breakdown of all my battles. Obviously that last Grand Finals was a little bit tougher, but all things considered, I was still very happy about how the tournament went and how I played out everything. Reflecting specifically on my team here, I think overall performed really, really well. Obviously, the Bastion was probably more for bench press than anything else. Of course, in certain matchups, especially that last game against Elite, I think I had a lot of play. If I had something in the back besides the Venusaur, like maybe a Medicham, I would have been really fine, especially getting 2 shields off of that lead matchup. But overall, it was pretty good for the most part. The few times I used it, I did get locked into a Medicham against DoctorRoastBeef, but it also clutched out the game 3 win, and then I also was able to win a game in my first round matchup against an ABA Flyer team with the Bastion on the back. So definitely has a lot of utility, but of course, if you want something more flexible, something that's a little safer to use, I think something like a Dunsparce or even a Alolan Sandslash is a better replacement for Bastion. Outside of that, I think overall my team was pretty solid. Venusaur was really good against Sophtoph's team, and maybe some other potential Galarian Stunfisk teams, although I think overall the usage and utility of it was not nearly as strong as something like a Trevenant used to be back in the old meta. So you could definitely replace the Venusaur with something else. Dynamic Punch Medicham, as you can see, came in clutch for me. And you saw every single battle besides my first round matchup. My first round opponent actually did not have a Medicham, had a Deoxys Defense instead. So if you look at all these battles, I actually never got stuck into one, a Azumarill. There was no Azumarill actually in general in this meta. And, you know, Bastion was actually technically my Azumarill counter because most are running Ice Punch Play Rough. So I actually was kind of banking on that Registeel and Venusaur to check any potential Azumarill if need be. But on top of that, if you looked at the footage, my Medicham was never stuck in a mirror matchup against opposing Medicham. And really, those are the two things you're scared of. Outside of that, Medicham with Dynamic Punch is really thriving, right? Obviously against stuff like, you know, Sableye, you're not in a great spot, but if you're not stuck against Sableye, which I think my Medicham was only stuck against like one Sableye as well, which was Elites, you're pretty good. I was stuck against Boomers, but at that point, my Medicham was actually pretty good, even into that situation. So, hopefully you're sold. If you're not, that's fine. Ice Punch, Psychic, Medicham is definitely the safer moveset, gives you much more coverage. But in my opinion, I think Dynamic Punch Medicham is just much better across the meta. It also makes it so that your opponents do not have as many or really any safe swaps in this meta, right? The main safe swaps are really stuff like Registeel and Sableye. I have the Noctowl for the Sableye, and I now have Dynamic Punch Medicham for the Registeel, which really puts me in a good spot. Especially because Trevenant is not around, you can't really, you know, counter Registeel safe swaps with Venusaur as another option. If you're prepping for NAIC or Worlds or for any other tournament, definitely consider running Dynamic Punch Medicham yourself. Best of luck, and hopefully you enjoyed the analysis here. If you have any questions, drop them down below. But as always, thank you all for watching. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and share, subscribe for future content, hit that notification bell to get alerted right when I post a new video, and I'll catch you all next time.